Boom. LJ, thanks, bro, for taking
No
time,
worries.
for inviting us into the mothership
Mm.
to come and have a look at all the awesome stuff you're doing, but to also have a talanoa today about your story so far. Um, Before we go any further, could you just please introduce yourself for our
Mm.
audience today?
Yeah, kia ora everyone. My name's Lindsay Unuia, mostly known today as LJ. I like that because every time I hear Lindsay, it feels like I'm in trouble, like my mum's calling me. But brought up in South Auckland, proud South Aucklander, and proud father of three boys, and my beautiful partner Jasmine, who reside actually in Australia. And so I'm here in New Zealand, and my family are in Australia, and I go back sort of like bi-monthly through the school holidays to visit them. But that's a little bit about me.
Mm. And what about the mahi you do, bro?
Yeah, so in my role here at All Heart NZ, I am the chief encourager. I like that. I've actually taken that title from the founder, who is one of my mentors, Joe Youssef. And I don't know, there's something catchy about it than having the old typical CEO title. So, Chief Encourager here at All Heart NZ Charitable Trust.
Beautiful. So we will dip into a bit of the work that goes on here
Yeah.
and beyond. But if we go back, like, what was young LJ?
Mm.
What did you see in the stars for you? What was mapped out for you? Was there a plan?
I don't think there was a plan, but what I would say, Will, was my village around me. I saw a lot of things. You know, I was a part of a lot of community activities. I was a part of a lot of different types of discussions that were happening as well. Home was obviously a very important place for me, and as I know it is for many people. Um, so it was very busy growing up. I felt quite privileged and spoiled, and I think in that, um, people for one was very important. The value of just embracing both old and young generations were very important
Yeah.
to me growing up. And so I think I picked those things up along the way, and that helped me in my journey as I grew into who I am now. Yeah.
What was the family dynamic? What was mum, dad up to? Grandparents? Presumably they were busy.
Mm. Yeah, interestingly, I was brought up by my grandparents. So my grandfather, he was a prominent community leader, leader at church, the Otara PIC, Cook Highlands parish there, chairman of local Tangaroa College Secondary School, worked in the consulate general office for the Cook Highlands consulate. And so he was amongst a lot of discussions. I think in the Cook Islands custom, the eldest grandson is kind of brought up by the grandparents. You would call it mataiapo, and so I'm the mataiapo for my father's parents. And so yeah, just learning, being with them. I think I had to mature at a really early stage because of the elderly people are just calm, mate. They're so calm. So I had to learn things pretty quickly. But at the same time, mum and dad, when I got to spend time with them and my siblings, dad was, an engineer. And so, I'm used to him coming home on the weekend with because he was in the steel mill. So, um, you know, um, just black powder all over his face from the hard work. And then mum, totally opposite, a social worker in the schools, dealing with children, with families. And so, yeah, interesting dynamics.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And so talk me through, as someone disconnected from, the heritage you're talking about, I don't know those things. Is the goal for you to spend time with the grandparents as a bit of a knowledge pass on, to learn customs, to learn ways of the past for the future?
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah. I think we in general, try and capture as much knowledge from our elders as much as we can. More importantly, the values that they have. Every Sunday, it's time for families to come together and just share a meal, have a discussion, and just get updates on how progress in life is, eh? And so carrying that through out my journey within my life is very important. And same with, you can see that intergenerational too with mum and dad, carrying out those values. So, yeah.
And I guess talking about mentorship, it could be that like your grandfather was probably your earliest mentor.
Yeah, absolutely. I would say so. Both my grandfathers, actually, my mum's dad and my dad's dad, both grandfathers played a huge role in being my first mentors. Yeah, as you mentioned, Will. And I think it's a mixture of leadership, fatherhood, brotherhood, and then everything else that comes with that as well.
You mentioned at the start of our, podcast that your family are in Aussie. And you also mentioned to us off camera and microphone that it's, I guess, to support your son, who's over there doing his NRL thing. And that's epic in so many ways. I bet you're a proud as dad. But talk me through the mentorship you're trying to provide, the leadership you're trying to see, because that's quite a sacrifice to make. We only get certain time on this place, but you're looking forward.
That's right.
These are planned, I guess, you know what I mean, eh?
I know, Will. Well, it's, let's just say I'm still learning. And, it's me being the best example I can as a father, first and foremost, for my sons, for my children. And it is showing that, we can achieve our goals. So prior to them going over to Australia, I've completed my my bachelor in business, and from there I just saw that in my sons, and the younger ones, they didn't quite understand what that, Dad, why is he going up on stage and receiving this award? So the hope is that later on in their lives, they get to look back, and if there's some sort of motivation or encouragement they need in their life, is that, hey, look, my dad was able to do it. Hopefully, they feel encouraged to do that as well and be the best they can be. And obviously, that's progressed throughout my role. Now being the chief encourager here, and so it was funny, Will, because my son got offered an NRL contract, in the junior pathwaying system, and then I then progressed as well. So we're a young family of opportunities were coming, and we just saw that we can grow together. As parents, we can grow with our children as well. And also my partner Jazz, she wanted to progress in her profession as well. Yeah.
Sometimes for me, it's hard to distinguish family and work. And I think that's kind of a strength, but sometimes it's hard for me to work out which is which. Like, I'm way more better at being assertive to my family than I am to my clients. You would think it would be the other way around, that they're paying me to be assertive for them, but sometimes I'm feeling the temptation to bring the cuddly teddy bear, when really I need to be a father because I have knowledge that they're seeking.
Yeah.
And I wonder, how that is for you. How are you navigating your work obligations and your family life and the twinings?
Yeah, I think it's definitely it was foreign to me as well, to be able to figure out how you can balance, work life and your personal life. And so it was a bit of a pivotal moment for me when I was introduced to mentors, or what I refer to as silent mentors. And the silent mentors, they actually don't know that they're mentoring me. I'm actually picking up off their every single move. And they're just men and women that I've encountered, I've had some interactions or engagements with along my journey that I've just observed, how do they do this? Why are they doing it this way? And so I call them my silent mentors. And then along the journey, you meet people, they can provide some mentorship to you as well. And so there's been a lot of, in my previous roles, I want to acknowledge all those, the managers before me who have provided me insights to how you can actually balance out work life. But I think it's a broad understanding of leadership. And that's when I came into, at a young age, even in my late teens, my early 20s, holding managerial roles. And then I think that's where you sort of learn the balance of how, and the importance too, around structuring your life so that, you can leave work at work.
Interesting.
And you can go home and enjoy your home life. Yeah.
I think what's striking for me as I enter into this podcast with guests like yourself is actually, on the surface, people think entrepreneurship is just go all in. But what I'm learning is there's very strategic thinking that I haven't put in place. And I'm feeling it now because I don't have infrastructure. And I'm having to build this plane as I'm trying not to crash it, And so my way of doing that is to go find the information, and to weasel my way into rooms like this and bring my skill set to try and say, can I just get a bit of your time to learn? Here's the way I can repay you by hopefully giving you a good reflective experience. And that's just my way of doing it. But I'm struck by people aren't just going in and seeing where the cards land. There's plans put in place.
Yeah.
And I guess, I'm interested to see, on your come up, was there somebody who kind of came into your life to ever give you the idea of a silent mentor? Who were the people that shifted you at the right time to, I guess, get this momentum moving forward, especially in those early managerial roles,
Yeah, just to name a few, Ulua Yono, I worked under his leadership. He was he's an entrepreneur, he originally, he had a multitude of things going on, but I was in the entertainment industry, of which he had a company in that area. That's when I first came encounter with him and just got to see a glimpse of his leadership style. And again, the strategic thinking around what he was trying to just achieve. What was thinking big picture was probably one of the first things I picked up from him, how to actually think big. Because, we don't really talk about that in our homes, or unless you've studied about it. But I think I had visions, I do have visions of me progressing into this and that, or even just starting a concept. But then it's how do you actually then build their pathway or their roadmap to getting towards that? So, Ulu helped me discover who was a silent mentor. He didn't know that, I think he was mentoring not just me, but a lot of us along the process. But I like to call him, my silent mentor. And then I come across a guy named Joe Yusuf, who actually was the founder of Ohad NZ prior to my time in my role as chief encourager here. He was the founder and chief encourager for Ohad NZ. Joe, there was a lot of similarities in terms of our faith, being strong Christians, and then he had a corporate background. I really wanted to get into the commercial space, and then we both were doing some work and projects around resource recovery. And so our Habitat for Humanity, which I was the operations manager for, I was just sort of breaking through, coming up with solutions for corporate and commercial surplus. And so that model aligned up with Joe and when Ohara Z first started. But then just coming in, years on and working actually close with him, just understanding a lot more around like strength finders, where the uniqueness of each of us and how we contribute to that team, in order to achieve working towards that roadmap, on that pathway to whatever it is, success or goal, or whatever the objectives of the company or for you as a person. So I learned more about that self-development, professional, personal development, and what that looks like. And it certainly helped me here in my role. And then during the same time, I have another mentor called, Michael. And so Ian has been in both the public and private sector for many years. And has also been a CEO of a few organizations. And he's helped me too to connect us being both Cook Islanders, having that understanding of, bro, when you go home, they might not understand the language that you're speaking. When you're discussing things, or when there's a community fundraiser, they might not understand you in terms of the initiatives that you're bringing up because it's foreign to them, but it's okay. So we work together on a few projects and still are when it comes to just community development and, some of our passionate areas of seeing others like youth rangatahi grow in the space and getting them into employment and, and things like that.
And so that specific mentorship about they might not understand the kind of frameworks. Are you talking about like people might say within your family, what are you doing that for? I don't, this is, you're dreaming. Is that kind of conversation?
Yeah, 100%. Well, you get that, and I think you can get that in general, not just from your family, but from anyone. But it's not till you break that down and you've spent hours, because I could imagine you would be spending hours, if not having those 2 a.m. light bulb moments, waking up in the morning and like, man, I want to do this idea, or someone's given me a bit of a thought. People don't understand that, when you're thinking strategically and you're planning and you're kind of, you've got this whole strategic plan that you're thought about, you've conversated that and run that by others that are in a similar role or within your team. When you go home, you can't have those sort of discussions. I find,
yeah, and that's interesting too, isn't it? The hats we wear, and that's leadership too. You can't just blabber out everything. The way I am processing that is, I'm trying to be disciplined at not always share. I'm quite a sharer, obviously, but I'm trying not to share all of my fears with everyone in my circles. Some of those I've just got to hold in. We'll see where the cookie crumbles,
Yeah.
And I've been thinking about a little bit, and I begin to get your thoughts on this, that, those of us who are lucky enough to have some stability in life, we've banked up a little bit of whatever you call it, energy or goodwill, and I'm prepared to trade a bit of that in to make something hard come to life. And that might be, we might be trading in a bit of our mental health. Funny you mentioned 2:00. I woke up at 2:00 this morning. It's funny you mentioned that specific time, because it's like boom, and I was awake and I was like, this is weird. I haven't seen the stars like that, and I was like, everyone else is sleeping. I'm like, what's going on? I found my way back to sleep. But I was thinking, man, what's going on in your mind? A lot. But that's good. I'm prepared to take that on. Do I wish to wake up every night at 2? No. But I'm okay doing that now, because clearly this guy and this guy are trying to have a chat.
Yeah, and I think too, like, when you've got your mind and your eyes, they're like set on something, and you want to get there, you'll create the way for yourself. You'll create the discipline. You'll create the process for yourself to getting to that. And I think it's okay to allow for those that don't understand, what that looks like, time for you to get there, and then come back and explain to them and break it down. So this is a really good example. I really didn't know what I was getting myself into, but I knew some things, and I had some values, and I knew some people, it's good people. So, and then things kind of just fell into place. I kept working on myself. And then I think it's not we've reached what we've reached that we're able to sort of just stop, reflect, review, and then come back to those that probably didn't understand what you're trying to achieve and go, hey, look, it's okay. It's not your fault, but this is how it is. Now, the best thing is, do you want to come on board? And shall we share this together? Because I'll learn something off you, and hopefully you'll learn something off me as well. Yeah.
When you follow your own path, I think there's a bit of a through line here about having some grace about where we've come from, but having a little bit of steel, carving a new path. How tough do you have to be? Like, how tough are you that people don't see? How tough are you on yourself, and how tough are you around others? Because just cards on the table, I have concerns I'm not tough enough because I don't come from a tough upbringing. I think that's why we're fascinated on podcasts about trauma, because if it doesn't nail you, it'll drive you. And I'm trying to rapidly build an armor that's tough enough to be able to handle the world. There's way more no's than yeses. And I'm like, damn, what do I do with my lifetime of yeses?
Yeah. Have you heard of that term, being thick-skinned?
Yeah.
Yeah, it's something I really didn't understand what that term meant. And yes, you can sense through the dialogue, the debate that goes on. But I think for me, how I dealt with it was keeping my eyes on what the vision is, and ensuring that within the roadmap, when I do something, whatever it is, it's got to be of purpose. The discipline I had to build actually took me a long time to really build, if I was to be honest. Will. The mental, the mental discipline.
Yeah.
And then everything else, because you've got to hold everything together. And more so in my role now, you're holding a few tensions, You're holding a number of tensions. And so I just think, it's important that you've got to have purpose, you've got to have vision. I don't see it at all as me having to build this armor over me in order for people to perceive me as, whatever I am. I want them to be part of the journey, and I want them to understand that, hey, look, even if they don't want to be part of the journey, that's okay too. But I'm not here to challenge you, nor comment on anything that you're doing. But just give encouragement, and that's hard too, sometimes then you think to yourself, man, do I have to do this, do that? But yeah, that's sort of, I don't quite see of putting this armor on. I prefer to stick in my swim lane and just try, keep going. Yeah.
It's very timely that I spend time with you because, maybe I represent a lot of people out there who are at war with themselves, I think I'm at war with myself culturally. I have, more of a Western view on things sometimes, but I believe when I spend time with my, Pacific families, that, man, it's like there's much more grace given to more things on your side than just your hard work, but you map that back onto the Western side, and it's like, all someone needs to say to me is, prove it then, show me that. And you feel depleted.
Yep.
So actually I'm okay in that war. I think both will help me. but it's really cool to hear you articulate some things that I'm thinking deeply about. And I think a lot of people on their entrepreneurial journey will be thinking about too, which is exactly why I want to do these chats, because there's more than just who people read about who we are as a bio. It's all these intertwining things, and like you've talked about, there's some things that we now know about you that you put in your bag of knowledge and you bring out when it's ready.
No, I appreciate that, Will. Yeah, along the journey, and more so over the last 2-3 years, as you accept that, you pick up tools. One of them is funny. This one here, I got my team. We all played this exercise, so we did strength finders, and you can see that my 5, I think you would have probably 15 all up, but my 5 are restorative, positive, strategic, developer, and inclusive. And then as you come to understand and dive deeper into what those are, they help you really work towards your strengths, and then helps you, especially working with others, you can understand them. Because not all of us, I think, they talk about what is your unique value proposition, right? In business, I think you've got to first identify what is your unique value proposition as a person. So that's just one of the tools we
use. Guidance for, those of us out there looking to find what our kind of unique part of us is. Like, I guess what I'm saying is, what helped you find that? Was it others? Was it yourself? Was it a mixture?
It was a mixture of things. Certainly upbringing is a big thing for me. And so, today you could say that we've achieved recovering a huge amount of what would have been really good items, surplus items from corporates. Avoided that going to landfill, but really I didn't really care much about the items in terms of what we were doing. It was why I was doing it, So I think they talk a lot about understanding your why. So I think that's a big thing. But if you can dive deep and really define what that is, then I think the magic from that pretty comes out. It starts to give you clarity around, okay, this thing, I've got a plan for this thing and this thing, and then the connectedness between all of it. And then how does that, how does that translate through what you do as a leader, as a father, as a anybody, Yeah.
I hated that question, why, up until about 6 months ago, and I read this book and it talked about how to find it.
Yeah.
And I was like, oh, boom, I love it now. What's your why? Is that on the, do you have that available, in your mind?
Yeah. Yeah, I mean, it's very easy for a lot of us to say that, our family is our why. But for me, my hope is that in building my family legacy, we are also able to contribute significantly back to society again at the same time, especially in challenging times like now. So my job is to be the best person that I can be, both in my capacity as a father, but as a leader as well. And I think, within today's society, there's a lot of mental health going around, mental health going around for, I think, just people in general. But men in particular, I think I've become more aware of that in my role from myself, but also talking with other men around their challenges. And these are men of different caliber, I've got a collective I'm a part of, which is a group of CEOs. We go and we play golf. And then you have, your mates. I was a musician as well. And so my music mates, and, you have different dynamics of groups that you're a part of. But just having conversations like what we're doing right now. Well, your story is a blessing to me, and hopefully mine becomes of value to you in some shape or form. So it is, and again, as easy as said, it's not easy to have these conversations, and So I think that's one of the best things you can do.
Yeah, it's interesting you talk about Ulu. And I mentioned in our last catch-up that, he's played a part in both of our journeys and many, probably thousands of others. He's a prolific silent mentor for many. But when he first met me, he said, "What's your why?" I said, "Oh, my family." He's like, "Well, that's not a why. So you can borrow mine until you have your own." That's when he pulled out his famous, "Do what you want, when you want, with whomever you want, as often as you want, or not."
Yeah.
And so I carried that, and until 6 months ago, I found mine, or I built mine, and I think you can change your why, actually. But after a bit of reflection, I wrote it down here. So this is what I've got. So my why is to create environments that allow me to feel safe, loved, and valued with the people that I trust and love, and the work that I love to do. So I hope that I bring that into this space.
Yeah.
Okay, there's a little bit of tension, there's cameras and microphones, but I'll work really hard to make you feel safe so we can share together. And I am banking everything in my life that's valuable. Because I do think it's valuable. I think having this recording is fantastic for your family. I think it's a great resource for others on their entrepreneurial journey. And I think it's counseling for you and I just to sit down and conversate. And actually, I hope that'll be my body of work for life, to bring things like infrastructures like this into places like schools, encourage our young people to talk. Don't call it counseling, because who the hell wants to admit that they're the one who needs help? Call it podcasting.
Nice.
And we bring ourselves out like that. So, yeah. Hey, because I know you have a busy rest of your day, I could sit here and talk for hours, and I hope one day we will. But I guess as we kind of come to the close of this chapter of our conversation, what's a piece of mentoring that you would be happy to share, knowing that mentoring is a bit of a journey? It's a bit of this and a bit of that. But is there anything that you're comfortable to share that you know to be true, that someone, anyone, us in the room, people watching or listening, could adopt into their lives? And that'll be something useful. Is that a fair thing to ask?
Yeah.
It's a massive thing to ask. I know I'm asking for everything.
Okay. Create the systems or the process that will then inform the behavior, inform the approach, inform the roadmap to get into the result. Take the emotions out of the process, take the emotion out of the system, and create the system and the process that will then inform the behavior in order to get into the outcome.
And could you just finally map that onto All Heart NZ?
Yeah.
Just so those who want to research deeper can see that.
Yeah, sure. So, as you can see here, last year we were recognized as, it's a business award for winning excellence in strategy and planning. We dedicate 2 sessions per year, one in the beginning of the financial year. We're about to embark on that this Thursday. And that's really for us to really define who we are as an organization, crystallize our vision. What is our big, audacious, hairy dream? What does that actually look like? Hopefully not too hairy, but what does that audacious dream actually look like for us? What do we want to achieve? And then building that roadmap. It's a hard one because emotions come at play straight away. But if we had an opportunity to really dive into something, take the emotions away, add that with a process to come up with, an outlined schedule of priorities that you need to tick off, and then coming back in the middle of the year and reviewing what that actually looks like, and then being honest with yourself, with your team, and holding everyone accountable to that. and then communicating that, I think is part of what that process looks like. And it has for us in last year, from doing this, I think, and actually winning this award, to then taking the overall Supreme Business Excellence Award. There wasn't anything fancy about, the previous years that we done, but I think what we did was, we made clear what this process looks like, this roadmap. We reviewed ourselves. We kept to the process. We kept the emotions out. And it took us a while, but then eventually, we came up with with the dub last year, which was awesome. But accolades aside, it's more about the impact that we wanted to create. And so for us here at All Heart NZ, it's achieving to creating, the most positive environmental and social impact we can across all of our communities, across Aotearoa. And so that the community themselves will speak to what that looks like, and where we're placed, we can see that through the work that we do, through the mahi that we do, in line with our kaupapa of corporate sustainability and that bridge to community support, providing what would have been an environmental problem, putting a solution or comprehensive solution in front of it, to creating some positive social outcomes on the other side. So we had to take the emotion out of that. Dealing with waste is, who wants to deal with waste? By making that process seamless, building that framework, to then achieving, hey, now we've got 34 staff from just dealing with corporate, what would have been waste. So that's sort of, bit of roadmap.
It's a lot to, think about for myself and others out there. So we'll take some time to decompress. But bro, thank you for, again, being open to the crazy idea of us popping in, chucking the gear on, and, I love it that you're up for it.
Yeah.
I like the leadership that, it's like, yeah, man, I thought we were just catching up, but we're podcasting. So that's the kind of world we live in. Great to connect, bro. Thank you so much.
Thanks for your leadership too, Will, in this space. It'll be fun to a lot of us. It's, you got to be courageous. So you probably got to be a little bit vulnerable and have those courageous discussions. But thank you for creating what you're creating for our communities across Aotearoa through podcasting, and your leadership through that space.